Right. For today's guest, we have Shaun Bemis, Navy veteran and business operations expert. Shaun learned to be a leader during his 20-year Navy career, including 10 years working alongside Navy SEAL teams. He was highly respected for his ability to build efficient and effective teams through processes which were sustainable and repeatable. He took these lessons to the business world, where in a very short time, he's helped employers and clients alike achieve revenue increases of up to 300%, established standard operating procedures for the first time, and clearly defined strategy which worked for their teams. He somehow finds time to take all of these lessons and applies them to ultra marathon running, having completed 8 ultra marathons. So, Shaun, let's start off with your time in the military. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so I was as I like to say, September 12th guy. So September 11th happened. Very next day, I'm talking to recruiters, trying to figure out, what I can do. So I ended up joining the Navy. I was an intel professional. So first half of my career was like normal Navy things, ships, support to ships. Actually went with the Army to Iraq a couple times. And then second half of my career was with the SEAL teams. Again, just intel support for them, deployed a couple times with them, and then ended up at a headquarters element where we supported the teams as they deployed and went downrange.
So, if I understand correctly, when you say you're a September 12th guy, that means September 11th, you're living your normal life,
Yep.
America gets attacked, and the next day you join.
I it The next day I started the process. So yeah, but yeah, I was like the military was not on my radar whatsoever. I had zero desire to join the military, and then September 11th happened, and I was actually like, hey, let's join the infantry, like get me over there. Had some friends kind of, calm me down from that, but yeah, like I wanted to be part of the fight and, contribute to whatever efforts were going on right after September 11th.
And what age were you at this time?
I was 20.
20 years old. And so, it's I know that you've had a lot of opportunities for leadership within the military. Was that something where you feel like leadership found you, or do you feel like that's something that you applied yourself and you pursued those opportunities within the military?
Yeah. 100% I pursued those opportunities. So there's definitely a handful of situations where, I was getting ready for a deployment, with the Army. And I remember it was just a training exercise. And they needed somebody to like be a truck commander. It literally meant nothing, right? Like in the grand scheme of things. And I was fairly junior within the group, but I raised my hand. I was like, "Hey, I'll do it." And I know for a fact that that led to my placement once we got into Iraq, where I was put with the busiest team that had the highest operation tempo. We ended up having the most captures of known enemy combatants during that deployment. And it literally all came back to me volunteering in a training exercise to say, "Hey, I'll take that leadership position. I'll take command of this truck." And there's a handful of other times where I stepped up and just said, either I want that position or like, sure, I'll make this sacrifice, but this is what I'm asking for in return. And it led to quicker promotions and just more opportunity in general.
It's really fascinating. It seems to be a common theme, a common pattern across your time in the military. It's a lot of volunteering, it's a lot of applying yourself. And so, is there anything you can tell us about some of your military operations, or is that all just super top secret?
No, no, it was yeah, there's definitely stuff. So I was mostly Iraq and East Africa during my time. But certainly every time I would, move a duty station or even within where I was at, kind of switch offices, it would be a brand new target set. So I did stuff against terrorist organizations in East Asia, and just kind of all over the place. And my role specifically focused on enemy communications. So while I don't know other languages, a little bit of Hebrew, I try to keep up with my wife when she talks to the kids. And to be honest, mostly my mother-in-law, so she can't talk right in front of me about me. But it's it was a lot of like how is the enemy communicating? When do they communicate? Where are they at when they're doing these things? And trying to establish like, where are their strongholds? What are they about to do? Advising, commanders and battlefield decision makers on where we need to be, where the enemy is going to be, how can we intercept them? Even at times like, hey, we should maybe stay away from this area. We could simply just drive around these guys to get to where we're going, and we can avoid a fight before we're ready for the fight. Different stuff like that.
Excellent. So obviously you are in very stressful situations, overcoming and finding your way to victory. Talk about the transition from this place where, you spent 20 years in the military and then transitioning into the business world. What was that like?
A wild change. So I ended up with a Danish startup. When I first got out of the military, I took like 2 weeks off and then started with these guys. And I was the lone American, and we were doing temporary luggage storage. And I remember kind of, sitting down and they were just, showing me the ropes, showing me the CRM, where the bathroom is, all those just normal, first day, first week on the job kind of things. And in my kind of downtime, I started to look at like where we were, as I was thinking, where is the enemy, right? Who are our biggest competitors? Where are they? Do we have a presence there? Literally looked at it like a battlefield and was like, where is the enemy? Where are we? Where do we need to be? How do we go take that ground from the enemy to where we can control it? And it was maybe my second or third week. And my job was really I was like the expansion manager for North America. And the boss looked at me during a all hands meeting and was like, all right, where are we expanding in the US? And I remember kind of looking around the room like, oh, wait, me? I was like, all right, let's go. And just kind of broke it down. But I did remember having that moment where I'm sitting there and I was like, 6 months ago, I was trying to figure out where terrorist organizations were, who the bad guys were, how do we neutralize threats? And now I'm trying to figure out how some tourist in San Francisco can safely stow some luggage before their Airbnb is available. So it was quite the transition from, something that was very stressful and at times very, high tempo environment to while still important and still good work. And I mean, it literally helps people have like a better vacation experience, which I 100% could appreciate, but just the stakes are a little different, So it was quite a transition.
Well, I guess startup culture is so fast paced. There must have
Yes.
been some similarities there. And yeah, tell us about the kind of success you experienced with this Danish startup.
Yeah, so when I first got in, we were, they were doing well. The company had not been profitable though, to that point. So still working out all those things. The US market was fairly new for them. And in about an 18-month period, while I was there, we went from about 47,000 in revenue per month to almost 300,000 per month by the time I was leaving. We went from, I think we had about 400 partners worldwide, uh, you know, and by the time I was leaving, it was closer to, I think, 15, 1,600 partners. So at some point, my counterpart in Copenhagen left the company and I kind of took over, operations globally. So I went from just having North America to where, I'm like trying to figure out expansion into China or Japan and having, calls at 10 p.m. at night. And then I'm an early riser, so I would get up and like I'm taking calls at 4 or 5 a.m. with our European counterparts, just making sure that I'm kind of working on their schedules and they don't have to adjust to me. But managing that whole expansion, saw the launch of new products, new verticals, different stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun because it was very innovative. The CEO was very like, hey, just go break things. Like don't completely take down the system, but like go figure things out, try things, and then, if it's not working, let's talk about it. And if it is, just report back and keep doing what you're doing.
It's incredible. So you mentioned you have a wife and kids. When did you meet your wife?
So I met my wife in 2010. I had just come back from Iraq. Literally my first week in Baltimore. I was stationed at the National Security Agency, and she was a nursing student at Hopkins, John Hopkins there in Baltimore. And yeah, that's when we met.
Nice. And then you guys have how many kids now?
I have two with her, and then I actually have two older ones as well. So I have four daughters.
Oh wow, four. Wow,
Yeah.
all daughters. That's
Yes.
man, that's the best, right? Daddy's
Yes.
little girls.
Yes, it is.
So I understand you and your wife now run a med spa, correct?
I would say my wife runs it. I'm there for support. But it is her business that she's been open for about 15 months now.
Good man, good man. So, and yeah, congratulations to your wife. That's
Yeah.
an incredible endeavor. I've taken something of a fascination in the med spa space these days. What kind of parts of the business do you support her on?
It's mostly the operations type stuff. Even before she launched, I was helping her with the business plan. There were days I actually found myself in City Hall, arguing permits, trying to figure out why, a build was being held up. I've helped her with her CRM, with a little bit of automation within that stuff. Tried to help with the marketing stuff. That one's an interesting beast, but tried to work where I could there. And then some of it is literally just like as she's growing right now, she's kind of at an inflection point literally this week where it's like potentially bringing on new services, new consultants, and like trying to balance really she's growing and it's like how quickly can she grow, right? Does she need to spend a little bit more to accelerate the growth, or is just this steady growth that she's on the right path for right now?
Yeah, it's I feel like running a business is very much like running a race.
Yeah.
It's a very chaotic, fast-paced marathon, which you have a lot of experience with. So you run ultra marathons. Now, if I understand correctly, ultra marathons, that's like a marathon but much longer, correct?
So it's anything longer than a marathon technically.
Mm,
So it kind of they say it starts at the 50K, which is 31 miles.
got it. And how did you get into ultra marathon running? I see that all over your LinkedIn.
Yeah. So funny enough, I used to hate running. I was a soccer player growing up, like, and unless there was a ball involved, I hated running. Even while I was in the military, didn't enjoy distance running. And one day we were in New York, and we're in a small Airbnb, and so I was going out in the morning and running just to kind of have time to myself. And for whatever reason, just kind of fell in love with running while I was there, and decided I was going to run the New York City Marathon, having no idea how difficult it is to actually get into that thing. So said I was going to do it, try to sign up, can't get in. Pandemic hits, and I'm watching all of these videos on YouTube. How do you run a marathon? We had just had our youngest child, so I'm like up in the middle of the night watching these, and I stumble upon these ultra marathons. And me having an addictive personality, I was like, well, that sounds way better than a marathon. So, like, what is this about? And honestly, they just came back before the big road marathons did. So my first one, there was maybe 20 of us that ran it. It was a 50K, pretty much in all sand. And that was like my intro. So I did an ultra marathon before I ever, ran a marathon.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, there is such a pattern of like this very high intensity desire to serve, desire to run the race and achieve difficult outcomes. So I know you run ultra marathons yourself. I believe you also consult with a youth mentoring charity for running, correct?
Yeah, so I'm the chief of staff with a new running company. It's called Relentless Running Co. And it came out of the two co-founders started a foundation, the Relentless Foundation, and it was to help youth, learn discipline and, all of those like life skills that you get from running through this foundation. And they actually like went to fundraise, found out people don't give money to first year like new foundations because everyone kept asking what they did with their money last year. And they're like, well, we need your money They're like, well, what are you going to do with it? Show us what you did with your money. And they're like, well, we haven't done anything. We need the money. So they started the apparel company. So really cool opportunity to be involved. I used to coach youth soccer before like the second half of my Navy career. So, being out there on the field when I had a little bit more time before I was working with the SEAL teams. So this is a great opportunity to come back to that youth coaching as well and in a capacity to give back to the local community.
It's wonderful. Yeah, so it's more of an opportunity to give back, right? To prepare the
Absolutely.
future. Do you ever like go on runs with the youth, or how does that work?
So we're still setting all of that up. Hopefully by the end of the year, we launch our first program. That'll be, I believe we're looking at Charleston, South Carolina for that one. But I also have an opportunity here coming up. In about a month, I'll be in Tanzania, actually almost a month from today. I'm running an ultra marathon out there. It goes part way up Mount Kilimanjaro, back down. But the race organizer there, same exact thing is he established a running program for youth out there. So I'm hoping to get an opportunity to at least, see some of those kids, get a feel for how he's running his program out there, and kind of take some of his lessons learned to bring it back for our guys.
It's incredible, man. It's incredible. So, as kind of some final words or final statements, what would you say to business leaders who maybe they don't have that affinity to volunteer, that affinity to dive in that you do, but they really want to make a difference in their chosen field? What would you say to them?
I think two things. It's the first thing is like we kind of talked about at the beginning is like don't be afraid to like take a chance to volunteer for something, to put yourself out there. Even my wife does work with like the Rotary Club in the community she's in, and they do a bunch of incredible work with nonprofits and like it literally runs the gamut of different community projects that you could do with them. But to be honest, it's been great for a business because you've got a bunch of like people that are community minded, but they're successful business people and they're coming into our med spot too. So like it's okay to do those things and like have that kind of look of like, hey, I want to be involved in the community, but like I also know it should come back to my business, right? Like it's not a waste of time. It's going to be simpatico, both ways. So that would be the first. The second I would say is like find things you're actually passionate about. So, for me to go out and say, build houses for the homeless, like, well, that's amazing. First of all, I'm terrible with my hands. So like I would be putting families at risk of a wall falling down if I was the one out there doing that kind of stuff. But that's just not where my passions lie, right? Where I've been able to find things throughout my career and through my adult life, where through sports and giving back to kids and youth in those areas, those are things I'm passionate about. And so it doesn't feel like a time suck. As when you're running a business, like you feel like every free moment needs to have a purpose. And if you can do something that is giving back to the community, but is giving you energy to where you don't come away drained, like that's just a win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate your perspective. We're so grateful for your service
Thank you.
and really appreciate the time.
Yep. Thanks, Christian. This was great.
Awesome.